listeners. If you are watching this on YouTube or if you are on any video format podcasting platform, you will notice that this podcast looks a little different now. We are now doing this podcast in video format. So not only are you hearing my voice, you will be seeing this face. This was a special request from my team. They've been hassling me about this for probably the last 78 episodes that we've done this show, that we need to do it in video. I never want to be on a screen like this, but here we go. So thank you for listening to our podcast, and let's get on with the show. Welcome to episode number 79 of the National Land Realty Podcast, where we discuss all things land. Our goal here is to inform, educate, and entertain those of you who own land or are interested in the buying and selling of land throughout the United States. My name is Mac Christian, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at National Land Realty. I'll be your host for this episode. And now that this is in video, you can truly see that I read this and pre-write it so I don't mess anything up. I have redone this, I don't know how many times now, but we're gonna do this on this try, and it's gonna work perfectly, right? Because I'm reading. So late in 2023, Zillow made headlines with the acquisition of FollowUp, now rebranded as FUB. This acquisition involved $400 million in initial cash consideration and up to $100 million in potential cash earnout. Those kind of news headlines tend to blow up. We saw that everywhere. So today we're talking with Steve Pacinelli, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of FollowUp, about this acquisition and what it will mean for current and future customers of FollowUp. Now, this is a bit of a break from our normal routine. We're normally here to talk about land, but this is something that impacts the entire real estate industry. So, is Zillow going to be using your hard-earned data for their own purposes? Is FollowUp going to be dismantled and cannibalized by one of the largest names in real estate? Listen and find out. Now sit back and enjoy. Okay, so I got a very special guest here today. I'm talking to Steve Pacinelli. He is the CMO of FollowUp, now known as FUB. Steve, how you doing today? You're over there in Philadelphia. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and you're here to talk about the Zillow acquisition with us. But I just wanted to tell you, I wanted to ask you a little bit about just how did you get here? How did you get with FollowUp? What got you here?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on the show, Mac. I'm excited to be on. And yeah, I've been in the real estate tech industry for 25 years. So that sounds really, really old. And the funny thing is, actually, my first job out of college was with Top Producer, which was the largest, CRM at that particular point in time. And Top Producer was acquired by Realtor.com. So this is my second acquisition of CRM to major portal, which is super interesting. But yeah, I've been in the real estate tech industry, for the past 25 years, jumping around from Top Producer to Realtor.com. Worked for a company called BombBomb, which serviced real estate tech as well as mortgage and insurance and a few other verticals as well. But I love the industry, love the people in it, and love that I got to come back to FollowUp and work specifically within the real estate business.
So I know from having the same title of Chief Marketing Officer that a lot of people look at that role and wonder what the heck it is and what it does. So I wanted to see if you could give us some insight on sort of your day-to-day, what your role is within FUB and sort of what you manage.
Yeah. The way I look at my role is, my job is to improve the businesses of as many high-performing agents and teams as possible. That is the ultimate goal. And I do that by way of sales, marketing, community, success, and support. And so we truly believe, and we actually have the data to back this up, which we can talk about later. We truly believe that FollowUp is the best solution out there for our ICP, for our ideal customer profile, which is the high performing agent and the high performing team. We know that we have the best product out there. So as a CMO, it's my job to generate awareness for FollowUp Boss? Do people know that FollowUp Boss exists? Okay, yes, they do. Okay, do our ICP know that FollowUp Boss is the best solution for their business? Well, no, they don't. Okay, well, we need to make that happen. How do we educate them? How do we provide content? How do we inform them that we can be a great solution or a great partner in their business? And then when they go to select their CRM, do they know that FollowUp Boss is the best solution? If they don't select us, then I failed as a CMO. I failed my job, because if they meet our ICP, they should be choosing our product. And then when they get our product, as a CMO, it's our job to make sure that we fulfill the promise that we made to them, that we are the best solution for you. So you need to be using our system. You need to understand our system. Your team needs to be on it. They need to be deriving value from it. And it's the delivery of that particular promise. Now, we execute that in a variety of different ways, in a variety of different channels. But in essence, that's what we are trying to do as marketers. I do run the marketing team, or on the sales team, the events team, and the community team here at FollowUp Boss. And so all four of those units really combine to that entire life cycle.
I don't want to pull a fanboy on you, but when I did pick FollowUp Boss as our CRM solution for National Land Realty, I went through a list of about 40 different CRMs, and I interviewed around 20 of them. It took about 2 months of my time to go through and dial in every single detail I possibly could, from ROI, cost to functionality. And it was funny because we had a previous vendor that had identified FollowUp Boss, and I was sort of jaded, and I wanted to disqualify FollowUp Boss. So when I went through the whole thing, my entire goal was to invalidate the opinion that FollowUp Boss was the ideal solution. And it popped to the top of the list every single time I tried to invalidate it. So I think it's a testament to the system itself that I went out to slash and burn it, and I ended up picking it.
Well, that's awesome. I love to hear that story. And, it's funny when we get into the Zillow part, we were evaluating a lot of different private equity companies to take cash on during that time, where Zillow was evaluating us too. And of course, every single one of these companies, these private equity companies that are debating on giving you a bunch of cash, they do their due diligence. And every meeting that we had with these companies, they would come in and they'd be like, we have never seen an NPS as high as FollowUp Boss ever in any industry. And it was like company after company coming in saying it's unbelievable. And NPS is Net Promoter Score. And that is if someone would recommend, a user would recommend your product to someone else. And it's a score that companies use, all over the world to determine how well they're doing. It's a basic proxy. And so, the highest score, company after company after company, they were just gushing. And it's like, hey, we not only believe that we have the best product, but it's verified from all of these companies where it's their job to invest in high performing companies.
Yeah, every time we ran into an issue where I tried to pick something apart and say, well, what about this? Every time we would go through it and find that it had already been thought about and a solution was already on the table, or there was something in progress, or there was a workaround. And that was the handiest part about it. I wanted to ask you, so recently, this is something near and dear to my heart because I started my career out as a graphic designer. You just went through an identity refresh. So tell me a little bit about that. And then I want to jump into the Zillow acquisition because that's kind of the meat and potatoes of the conversation. But a little bit about that because that's kind of a recent thing.
Yeah, for sure. I've only been at FollowUp Boss for 9 months, so I'm still new to FollowUp Boss, and then we get acquired, and I'm new to Zillow. It's just a whole bunch of new. But as soon as I came on, we were in the process of changing the brand, and FollowUp Boss always led with a team mindset first. We develop the products for teams first. Why do we do it that way? Even though we have so many individual agents using the product, because teams in general, you need process to run a high performing team. And even if you're an individual agent, that process is extremely important. So if you think about it from a team perspective that needs process and oversight, if you do that right, then you're going to do it right for the high performing individual agent as well. And so we always built our product around teams. And during that rebranding process, which yes, we tend to use FUB a bit more now. That wasn't really part of the rebranding because our customers will call us FUB, and they kind of like gave us that name. But what we did do is we developed Team OS. We're not just a CRM. We are your team operating system. And so the interesting part about the refresh was like, hey, we did this with our product for years. We've been building this way for years. We now recognize it as a marketing lead foot, like this is the team operating system. How do we take Team OS out of the product itself? And how do we bring it out ahead of the product? And that's when, and I don't know if you're aware of this, Mac, but we released the Team OS show, which is a show for high-performing solo agents or teams, agents that want to join a team, agents that want to start their own team, agents that just want to improve their business, and they want to learn how to start, grow, and optimize that real estate team. And so we thought of something much bigger than just like a rebrand. I had this saying for the past 10 plus years, even at the last company I was with, be a value and abundance will follow. And this is the realization of that saying. How can we teach and train? We have the best agents. We have the best teams on our product. How do we tap them for their information, provide free education and training and insight, and push that insight out in front of the product? So then people say, hey, okay, FollowUp Boss knows what they're talking about. They understand us. They are a part of us. Maybe I should evaluate their product and their system too. So we're doing good for the community to provide the best training. You don't want to research on a random blog post how to build and construct your real estate team. Not everybody has the money to pay a coach on how to do that either, and how to optimize their process and their support. But we want to provide that for free. So that was a big part of the brand refresh. And it was exciting to launch it. And of course, it's pixels and colors and graphics and all those things too. But it's really our core identity in who we want to be. We want to be a value, and abundance will follow for our customers, and abundance will follow for us.
I share that belief that a give first value system kind of yields success to any kind of operation that you're trying to run. So the big part of the conversation is y'all were just acquired by Zillow. Yeah. So this is big news in the real estate industry. I've listened to a lot of reactions, paid attention to a lot of reactions from agents, just because I have to stay in tune to our team as well as the industry. Tell us how this came about, and then I kind of want to jump into the details. But how did this even come about in the first place?
Yeah. So, I mentioned earlier in the conversation that we were evaluating private equity companies to get a cash influx for perhaps mergers and acquisitions. Yet Dan and Tom have a vision for this company, an unwavering vision on what they want to do with FollowUp Boss. And they want to improve the lives of the realtors and the agents that are using, and the teams that are using our product. And so we were evaluating different ways of getting a cash injection, into FollowUp Boss. And around that same time, of course, Zillow was a part of that conversation. They actually spurred some of that thinking on, because as a team, we were like, can we execute our vision by ourselves as this small, we're 100 person company that was always bootstrapped. No outside cash injections whatsoever. So we always had to lead with revenue. And as technology now, especially in the past couple of years, which I'm sure you guys are using as well, with AI and everything else, it's moving so fast. And if you don't have a plan for AI and you're not building the latest technology into your system, you're going to be left behind. There's like the speed in which technology is being developed is going to go 100x now than it was over the past 5, 10, 15 years. And so we identified that, we're going to need some more resources. And we had the choice of going to these PE companies, which they all wanted to buy us. They all had different offers, but it was just cash. It was just cash coming from these companies. And when you look at Zillow, and what we can do together with Zillow, we're not only getting, of course, cash from Zillow, they're a massive company, but you're getting resources, you're getting knowledge, you're getting insight. They have more Zillow, and I guess we could say we now, because as of the 8th, I did my onboarding, so I'm a part of the Zillow team. We have more AI devs and engineers than FollowUp Boss has employees. So how can we grow? How can we realize the vision that we had for the product and what we want to do and not get left behind and have access to resources? Yes, it's not only cash, but it is the know-how, the insight. Zillow is a technology company, and they are the best technology company in the real estate space and one of the best technology companies in the world. And so to have access to those resources, we had a vision for AI. We shared that vision at FUBCon. We do the event each and every year. And honestly, we were like scrambling. We're like, how are we going to execute? Okay, how are we going to bring in more people? How are we going to realize the things that we just talked about? And as soon as we joined the Zillow team, they were like, here are some AI developers to help you execute on that. And it's like, oh, like, and so it's really exciting because we are going to be able to move faster and do the things that we wanted to do. And it's not just about the cash, it's about the resources and about what Zillow is going to be giving to FollowUp Boss as they push data into our system to make each user of our system more equipped to do their day-to-day job. And that's why we decided to go with Zillow. It was much bigger than just selling the company.
Right. Well, and that's an interesting perspective too, because I remember when ChatGPT first launched, I had a meeting with my team that week. I think it was within a couple of days. I studied it pretty heavily and just had a sit down with them and was like, okay, everybody needs to figure out how to utilize this, what it can be utilized for. Because the iterations you're going to see from competitive companies in the next few months, if we don't figure out how to utilize and be a user, every single one of your jobs is going to be in jeopardy in the next 2 years. This is going to iterate faster than you can react if you're not on top of it and paying attention to it and seeing how it can be incorporated. Because it's not, it's not coming for our jobs, but everybody needs to be a user or it threatens your capabilities as an employee. And so we had a really serious, and we incorporated within a couple months. But to your point, companies that are not utilizing it with their data sets, trying to manipulate data in a faster, more efficient way, they're behind. It's a big deal. And to the cash influx that you receive from somebody like Zillow enables you to do that. And it's that sort of what I'm trying to say, nimble development that you can start incorporating into your iterations on your product that you can start using, getting on top of that and using it and using the data for your customer's best interest.
That proprietary insight is key to making any product grow. And that's what Zillow is so amazing at. I mean, it's a data company. It's a tech company. They are researching, they're pulling the insights out of the data, and the ability for them to come in and help us evaluate our system and our tool and how we can move forward, and pulling the insights out of what our users need from the product, how we can help them do a better job in servicing today's real estate consumer. It's super exciting. And I'm seeing it happen again. Well, it's January. What's today's date? The 25th or the 26th?
That's a good question. Somewhere it's like
something like that. Just like 20 some days in the company.
I pulled it up.
Oh, what did you say? 26? Yeah. So just 20 some days or less than that, in the company, I'm already seeing the fruits, of that labor.
That's great. So what does this mean for FollowUp Boss? What's the future of FollowUp Boss within this system? Is FollowUp Boss now going to be a Zillow, rolled up into the Zillow enterprise, or is FollowUp Boss staying independent? How is that going to work for the brand itself?
Yeah, so FollowUp Boss is staying independent. It's not going to be like Zillow Up Boss or Zillow Up Boss. Everything. It's funny. Everything.
Is a great one to play with, though.
Well, everything in Zillow has a Z in front. So they do their Zaniversary, and I'm learning all of these things. It's pretty funny. But yes, FollowUp Boss will remain a separate entity. FollowUp Boss was purchased for $500 million, for $500 million, $400 million up front, and $100 million. If we hit certain goals. And so we have these goals in place for growth, and it's to get as many users as we can on FollowUp Boss who should be on our system. Like, how do we get more seats? And so we are going to be that separate, entity within the Zillow group to execute on those goals, so we can hit our goals as a company.
So it's going to kind of follow in the fashion of, and I think that it sort of gets lost in the pages that there's companies like Trulia that have been acquired by Zillow in the past.
Yep.
And it's not like anybody goes out there and talks about Trulia as part of Zillow. I think a lot of people don't even know it's acquired by them because it's stayed separate.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I guess other companies assimilate. And again, this is just from a outside, now almost just barely inside perspective, but they have integrated technologies and things like that before, but there's Showing Time, there's Loop, there's FollowUp Boss, there's Trulia, and they all have their own identities.
So are there any, I realize the acquisition just happened. And so, I think you just mentioned you just recently gone through the onboarding, right? So I was curious if anything has been discussed as far as new changes coming up to FollowUp Boss that maybe people should be aware of, or changes to the system, or new sources of data that FollowUp Boss is acquiring. And then I'll get into some of the questions from that I get from real estate agents. But are there any changes, kind of exciting things coming up?
Yeah, for sure. As I mentioned, the AI components, that's one thing that I can talk about. And I know I can talk about because it was on our roadmap before we got acquired. And as I mentioned, we now have the help to execute and expedite that. And so you're going to see some features released here soon with AI transcriptions and summaries of calls. And we're really diving into that portion, into the contact record of FollowUp Boss and how we can use AI right there. So that's the most immediate thing coming. Oh, as well as automations. We're revamping the automations within FollowUp Boss, and we hit a couple roadblocks, with our team and how we wanted to execute that. And now we're getting help from the Zillow team in realizing our new automations 2.0, which is going to make it easier to build out the automations and the action plans that were previously in FollowUp Boss, going to connect those together and make it easier to build out and to visualize. So those are some of the new things that are coming because of the acquisition.
Excellent. And so I want to hit you with this one. Is this a master plan for a corporation to come in and gut a company and jack up the price, maximize return on investment, and take the data from real estate agents to distribute to whoever they choose?
So there's a lot of questions in there.
There's a lot of questions in there, but that's like, so the reaction in the industry, and that's you guys pay attention to the conversation just as much as we do. Is there's a worry from agents that Zillow is acquiring FollowUp Boss in order to grab that data and to be able to use it and leverage it and be able to have a consumer base to reach out and contact, or scrub that data or pull data from agents, or any number of things, right? And so there's definitely concerns from agents in the marketplace. Is that a thing, and how is that protected, and sort of what is the conversation revolving around that internally?
Yeah, so let's start there with the data, because there's a number of things that we could talk about in that series of questions. And I actually have this up on my screen, so I want to make sure I got this correct. And it's about as clear as possible in what is going to happen with your customer data, because we knew that people had questions. And so let's make it really clear. Can Zillow Group access, use, or scrape your customer data? That answer is no. Don't even have to explain anything else. No, the customer data you enter into FollowUp Boss stays within FollowUp Boss. Zillow Group won't be able to use it unless you give permission. Now, what does that mean? People are like, oh, well, am I going to get duped into giving permission? Speaking of new things coming, and again, I am not speaking from a Zillow perspective. This is just my opinion, not necessarily represented by Zillow, because I don't know all the plans. I don't have insight into everything. But one thing that I have seen so far is the integration between Zillow and FollowUp Boss has been greatly enhanced just in the past couple of weeks. The data that Zillow is pushing into FollowUp Boss and that's coming back to Zillow. Now that is coming back to Zillow. People do give explicit permission. Hey, Zillow, you can access this information right here about my Zillow contacts. Makes it a much better experience for someone that has the Zillow. Let's say they're a flex lead purchaser or they buy leads from Zillow. Those leads that are coming in, you want a two-way sync. That is something where you 100% want to give permission to Zillow to see the data in your database because it's providing insight from the Zillow website. If that's a hot lead, if they jump back on the Zillow website and they're searching, it's going to update your FollowUp Boss and it's going to ping, it's going to create a hot list in your FollowUp Boss or smart list. And it's going to say that you need to contact this person because they're on the Zillow website. That is so powerful. And yes, you do have to give permission for something like that to happen, but they can't go and look at your other contacts in your database. So it gets very nuanced, of course, with the data. But if you don't have a Zillow integration, you don't want Zillow to access your data, that answer is no. Zillow will not have access to your information. Can Zillow Group market to your clients? That answer is no. Again, customer data you enter stays in FollowUp Boss. Can Zillow run analytics, see the source of, or view reports on leads? That answer is no. Can Zillow Group take your leads and give them to premier agents, people that are paying Zillow? Like that was, oh, they're going to take this and move it over there. That answer is no. Again.
And that is the one, I think that particular point is the most significant conversation that you see across the board with agents across the country is that one right there. Are they going to take the data and give it to the paying agents on their end? And the answer is no.
Yep. And we'll do two more here. Can Zillow Group access my customer data with the Zillow one-way FUB integration? That answer, the one-way FUB integration, that answer is no. Again, to do some amazing things that we want to do in the future, there has to be a two-way sync. And the agents are going to love that there's a two-way sync because they're going to get insight. I'll back up for a step here. One of the things that I am most excited about, we just went through all the data questions. Those are all questions that people have asked. But what they're not asking themselves is how much data can be pushed from Zillow into FUB? And that answer is a lot. And that's where we're going to have a huge advantage. Zillow allows you to connect your FollowUp Boss allows you to connect your website to your FollowUp Boss, and it provides insight to what people are doing on your website. And that's at a much smaller scale. This isn't happening yet. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but use your imagination. If you have the largest real estate portal in the world and you have a CRM system and we're going to push data from the portal into the CRM system. Imagine the strategic advantage that you could have if you were getting that data in your contact records. That's the exciting part about the future. How will that be realized? You'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm excited for that component of FollowUp Boss.
And that's actually something that we took advantage of with our company is just because you have an open API and we can run systems FollowUp Boss, we run tracking from our website into FollowUp Boss to see interaction from there. And you were talking about the sync that you have the choice to enable with Zillow. That's something, I mean, a lot of our agents listen to this podcast. Just so that you know, agents, we already run a two-way sync with user information from our website so that you can see which properties are being checked out on our website. What you're talking about is a sync with Zillow to where you can also see on a wider scale who's searching what in Zillow, which if you can imagine the power of that, seeing what your leads are looking at and being able to speak to those points, contact them and have those conversations and be able to see their search history on specific properties, that holds a lot of value if you're trying to represent them.
And we actually have that quantified, Mac, for the last question that we'll do here. Can Zillow Group access my data with the Zillow two-way FUB integration? Now we've kind of touched upon this already, but let me just read the exact answer right here. When using the optional Zillow two-way sync, your Zillow leads assigned agent, stage, and communication signals are synced with Zillow in the same way the integration operates today. You decide whether to use this capability to sync your Zillow leads between Zillow and FUB to improve your agent experience. Now, here's the kicker. Zillow Premier Agent teams, we just got this stat, who use FollowUp Boss and enable the integration, the Z-Connect integration, 29% more Zillow source deals than Premier Agent teams that do not use FollowUp Boss. So 29% more deals. Would you like a 29% increase in your deals closed? Everybody's going to say yes. And that is because of the data and the insight. And that's the future. Like, that's where we're going. We're going to be able to enhance that even more and provide more insight to the user using FUB.
So just kind of bringing everything under one umbrella as far as conversationally and how kind of this merger is going. This is sort of a thing where Zillow as a company wants to invest in companies that make money and have good products, because that, provides honestly just more money for the company, right? You make good investments, you get more return. Mm-hmm. And so they pick out companies like, let's say, like Trulia or like FollowUp Boss that have good products on the market. You enable those companies to be more successful than they already were through cash influx and resources like AI developers and software developers. You give them the resources to succeed on a higher level than they previously could. That's your investment. It's the same thing as anybody going out and putting money into a mutual fund. You try to find the best mutual fund to get the best return, and then you get the profits of that return. So by letting FollowUp Boss continue to be the entity that they were and giving them more resources, kind of supercharging that car and building it up to go faster, you get the return on that, because as an investor, you're entitled to a percentage of return. And it's not a plan, because if you were to strip that out, if you were to take the data, then you would lose trust in your consumer audience. If I were to invest in something, tell everybody that I was doing something on their behalf, and then I take the data and do something malicious, everyone's going to know about it. Because I'll let you speak to this too, but you were talking about the size of company and the eyes on you as a traded company. You do something like that, everyone will know tomorrow, and you'll lose market share immediately. So
and that's in
their best interest to let FollowUp Boss be FollowUp Boss and supercharge you guys, right?
Yeah, and that's the goal. Zillow is a publicly traded company. They don't want to do anything to jeopardize their company whatsoever. And just as an extra layer of security, we hired a third-party entity over top of Zillow and FollowUp Boss to make sure that the policies are being adhered to and they're being followed. And so we wanted to make absolutely certain that people felt comfortable with their data. We know how important everyone's data is to them, and we understand that. Tom and Dan, our founders, that was so crucial in their decision-making process. And I don't think it could be in a more safe place. I worked for a lot of different companies before, small startups and big companies, and people always think, I got to worry about the big company. No, they have oversight, they have regulation. And not saying all small startups do this, but when you have a team of 20 people and they're trying to do everything that a company needs to do, or 30 people, like, that's where you have to worry about your data, not with a large company.
I was going to say, on those smaller teams, because I've been part of the smaller teams several times in my career, and it's like, you get the mentality of run around and break things, and because you have to compete with larger teams. And when you do get to larger teams, like I previously worked with teams on Cisco, and you were always having to be careful on, what's your next step? What's the PR release going to be? Everyone's watching you. Those are things that you constantly have to watch. And when it comes down to Zillow, it's sort of a ubiquitous brand, right? Like it's everywhere, and everything that has to do with real estate. Something changes at Zillow and everybody knows immediately.
Yes, that is true.
Always.
That is true.
So I wanted to kind of just ask you an overhead question here is you've been with FollowUp Boss, you said 9 months now. I realize onboarding wise, the learning curve is real steep there at the front end when you're onboarding, especially at a C-level position. Coming in with fresh eyes, What's the value proposition of FollowUp Boss? What's sort of the power that you see with it towards users, towards teams, towards individual real estate agents? And as far as what does it give to them that other CRMs don't?
Yeah, it's simplicity. When I got married, my wife, for our engagement gift, she bought me, it was very expensive. She bought me this package to go learn with Cliff Mountner, who was one of the top 10 wedding photographers in the world. And I love photography. I had a photography business, and I got to go for 3 days and hang out with Cliff Mountner and learn from Cliff. And it was awesome. It was really cool. And Cliff takes a look at your photos, and and this was back in the day when I got married, and they were actually printed out. And he's like going through, and he didn't really say this, but this is what I heard at the time. Stinks, sucks, horrible. And he wasn't really saying that, but he was picking out how the photos can be improved.
Full on critique.
And you'll see how I tie this in here in a second. But so he's like going through, he's critiquing and everything. I'm like, God. But the main critique was that my photos were too busy. He was like, this is an awesome backdrop, a beautiful model. Then you have this element here, this element here. He's like, all of this is competing against one another. And he's like, if you took away your photo and decided what you wanted, what you thought was most important, and removed everything that was superfluous to the photo, he's like, you're going to have a much more striking, powerful image that connects with people. And that lesson right there stuck with me for the rest of my life. I think about that lesson all the time, and it applies to business and applies to so many other aspects of life. It's not even funny. And so how does that relate to what's FollowUp Boss's, unique proposition that we offer? And we are not the all-in-one software. It's what we're not doing that makes us special. And so there's so many different tools out there, and there's so many different CRMs that they try to be everything, and they try to add every functionality and every feature, and they cram it in, and it turns into this big wild mess, and nothing really works as well as it should. And the feature seems interesting, but you can't really use it, or it's missing crucial functionality. With FollowUp Boss, it is a CRM. We're not adding other components on websites and other things. We allow best in breed software to be best in breed software. We want to be best in breed in the process of your business. And if you want to change website vendors, you don't have to change your CRM at the same time. Most CRMs come with a website attached to it. Well, if you don't like the website, but you like the CRM, well, now you're stuck, right? Like, you can't just swap it out. But with FollowUp Boss, because you're just buying the CRM, and because we have over 300 integrations, and we want to connect with everyone, that is our unique selling proposition. We have so many integrations that you can connect that will work best in breed. And then you get the best of both worlds. You get the best website, the best lead gen system, the best mass texting platform, the best postcard platform, and it connects with your FollowUp Boss. And if you don't like that lead gen system, or you don't like that website anymore, you just dump it and you attach a new one, and you don't have to retrain yourself on how to manage your database. You don't have to retrain yourself on your day-to-day workflow. Your day-to-day workflow stays exactly the same, but you get to choose that latest AI tool that just came out. And if you're an all-in-one solution, or you're a solution that tries to cram everything in, you're never going to be good at any of it. And I think that is, and I know it's kind of ethereal a bit, that answer, but that's the secret sauce for us. That's what makes us better. It's the hyper focus on what we do well.
It's old wisdom right there. It's the Thomas Jefferson, jack of all trades, master of none thing. And it's something that gets, we repeat it internally all the time. Like, if you're doing all the things, you're probably not doing any of them very well. Mm-hmm. And I love that approach to it. It was one thing that was very reassuring to our company when we first started looking at FollowUp Boss. We're very paranoid, right? Just in general, as a large scale brokerage on a national level, we're paranoid, and especially of data. And so when we went into the conversation, it was like, okay, so what happens if we don't like you? What happens then? And I was like, well, you just grab your leads and go. And you're like, well, you'll give it all to us? Yeah. Give it. Well, what about the contract? Is it going to be like a 5-year No, it's not a 5-year contract. You can go month to month if you want. And it was those kind of things that we were like, oh, all right, so I guess we're friends. and then you could kind of go into it and then, well, what plugs into it? Well, anything you want. So where's the catch? No catch. And then you had to vet that. And that was the process that I went through with product was, how do I pick it apart? And every time I tried to pick something, you found this balance to it. Like, okay, no, we're not trying to, you're not tied in. You don't have to dump your website when you leave us, something like that. Or for us, right? We developed our own website. You're not going to pay for a website solution that you're never going to use. There's things like that I definitely like the product. Like I said, I don't want to seem like a fanboy, but it's been a good thing for us.
And even if you pay for a year, you mentioned like the month to month, even if you pay for the year up front and you decide to leave, we will refund the rest of your payment. Like there's no software company period. I was going to say CRM company, but
software. Yeah.
Just software in general that will do that. And that speaks to Dan and Tom's philosophy that trickled down. One other, just real quick, one other element, like I forgot to mention, but I think is super important and just something interesting to think about as well. And I've thought about this a lot. Dan and Tom can buy like an island right now and sit on the beach and just hang out for the rest of their lives. But they're, as my kids would say, which is funny, Dad, I'm built different. That's the saying these days. I'm built different. These entrepreneurs are built different. And it wasn't about the money. They are ingrained, working harder than ever to improve the lives of the people that are using the product. And they have all the money in the world. And this is what they want to do. Like how many people listening to this show, if you got $500 million, would you still be doing the same thing? I don't know.
I might be fly fishing in Argentina right now.
Yeah. It's a good question. And like, who do you want at the helm of a company that you put your trust into with your contacts, with your database? Do you want the person that's in it for the money, that's looking for the exit? Or do you want the person that's still here, that's still trying to figure out ways to make your life better? He has a different motivation. And you said like, what's the power, a FUB? Why should, what's the advantage? What's the unique selling proposition of FUB? It's the leaders. It's the people that, everyone adopted Dan's mindset that's here, and it's truly unique. And I don't think you're going to find that in very many companies out there. Agreed.
Well, Steve, I know that we both have a hard stop here at the top of the hour. And I know that you have a very busy schedule for a company that's now part of Zillow. So I know that you're busy. So I really just want to give you a heartfelt thank you for taking this time to have this conversation. We're just a brokerage, but you made the time to have this conversation with us. And I can't thank you enough for just allowing the time and being open and honest and transparent about the conversation we just had. So thank you very, very, very much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure to speak to you and hopefully your entire team.
Awesome. Thank you. This concludes episode number 79 for the National Land Realty Podcast, discussing the Zillow acquisition of FollowUp Boss with FollowUp Boss Chief Marketing Officer Steve Pacinelli. You can learn more about land ownership and the buying and selling of land at nationalland.com.